This is their fourth Socratic seminar this year. We try to do one a quarter on different texts with about 22 students on the text The Bargain by A.B. Guthrie. And they were given questions to answer. They answered the questions prior to coming in. Only one speaker at a time, and we have to speak clearly. We value others' opinions, but refer to the text when defending your position. And this is not a debate. We are learning from each other. I am very deliberate about the students who I put in each circle. The inner circle obviously goes first, outer circle. They're listening, they're evaluating, and they're kind of making notes as to what they want to say when it's time for them to be in the inner circle. I usually pick a facilitator to facilitate both circles, and I choose my facilitators very carefully. I want students who are courteous, students who read well, and students who can pick up on cues when someone is done talking or when there's kind of a lull in the conversation. They know that it's time to move on.
Question 6. How do justice and revenge play a part in the text?
I was the facilitator for the inner circle. I would facilitate the questions, what questions we were going to ask. I got to skip around to questions maybe I wanted to look at specifically because maybe I had a point that I liked or I wanted to hear other opinions about it.
And the ability to read play a key role in the text.
Initially, I was part of the group, so I actually sat in the inner circle, and so I functioned as a facilitator, and I suggest that teachers do that if they've never done something like this before, because then you still have control, but at the same time you take a step back and you let them do the talking. Did you guys catch that? It happened when it was really cold. You know, if there's a good question that gets thrown out there or a good answer, it's okay to be the teacher and just say, hey, but what about this? And the kids actually respond very well to that, especially at the middle school level. By the time they get to high school, they probably really know how to do this. So it might be a little different there. But here, I think kids appreciate that. It is difficult to be on the outside because my job is just, I'm taking notes. I want to know who spoke how many times, if they connected their answers to the text, if they connected their answers to life. So I'm making notes of all of that. At the same time, I'm listening to their answers, and of course I want to give my input because I know that perhaps their answer can spark a great question for the group. Well, was Mr. Farmer justified in what he did? One of the hardest problems we had initially was them talking over each other, and they always want to get the last word in. And so they've learned now by this point that it's not a debate so much as it is a dialogue.
He was really hurt and could barely take care of his story. And he's like, I could take a couple days off of school. He was like, no, that's not happening.
You have interesting points coming up, you have things that people would agree with, you have people participating, and that's what honestly makes it work the best.
You really want to understand what the other person is trying to say, why they think the way they do. And in turn, you understand the text better because you see it from different perspectives.
I honestly don't think it warranted death, and Mr. Balmer took it to the next level.
I just don't want to seem like the mean person when I give my differing opinion about something, so I try to do it in this respectable, keep a calm tone way so I don't come off as like hostile or anything.
But I'm not saying that Mr. Balmer wasn't educated at all, but Al was a little bit more educated than him.
I find that no matter what grade level kids are at, they really do well because they want to be heard. So it's their opportunity to be heard in that type of setting.
Inner Circle has already talked about how this was all probably set up.
For me, it's really hard just to sit still and be quiet. So, like, by the time I actually get into the circle and we start things off, that's when I'm like, boom, you know, I'm ready to go.
They like sharing their opinions with others. And because it's not a debate, they do feel safe sharing their opinions.
Mr. Robert might have also saw that, but we might have seen different things.
I suggest doing something like this to encourage close reading because all of the questions, they have to be open-ended and they have to be text-specific questions. So it forces students to go back into the text to get their evidence.
It really does help with understanding the concepts of the text and the themes.
You get to see a lot of different perspectives and different ways of how things can be looked at. You come away with a better understanding of the text, and it's a lot of fun.
You just need to let them know we're learning from each other, and essentially, they become the teachers. It's amazing what students will rise to when you set the bar high.